Greetings and namaskara, everyone. This Samoyed Academy Publications presentation is by Satguru Bodhinath Velan Swami and is drawn from Gurudeva's teachings on daily practice. It is entitled 6 Levels of Practice. The first section is entitled Making Dharma Your Own and is based on the publisher's desk in the October 2016 issue of Hinduism Today magazine. I have met many Hindu youth in the United States who think that the temple is the totality of Hinduism. And if they feel pujas are boring, as many youth do, because they are in Sanskrit or are too long, then they conclude that Hinduism is boring and don't participate in the temple. One young man asked me directly if it was all right never to attend Hindu temples. I indicated it was, but that then he really needed to focus on fulfilling Dharma. Dharma is a complex and comprehensive term with many meanings, including religion, divine law, law of being, way of righteousness, ethics, duty, responsibility, virtue, justice, goodness, and truth. In its most general sense, Dharma is that which sustains the orderly fulfillment of an inherent nature or destiny. It comes from the Sanskrit root dri, to sustain, carry, hold. Thus we can say that Dharma is that which sustains the cosmos, human society, and each member of society. Relating to the individual soul, it is the mode of conduct most conducive to spiritual advancement, the right and righteous path. As the meaning of Dharma is so broad, I find it best not to translate it into English, but rather use the word Dharma itself, which works since the term, like so many Sanskrit words, is gradually being absorbed into the English language. A book traditionally studied at a young age in Tamil schools is St. Avayar's ancient work, Atichudi. It consists of 109 one-line verses that, while teaching the alphabet, provide guidelines on right living. The first verse is on Dharma. It says, Aram Seya Virumbu, or desire to fulfill Dharma. This shows the long-standing importance of Dharma in Hindu education, and it sounds so simple. However, Dharma has so many subtleties that many youth find it challenging to relate to the concept. In response, we explore here 5 aspects of the term and their application in life. The first and core meaning of Dharma is living virtuously and fulfilling duty. It includes all the noble behaviors that we know are right and good. One learns to be selfless by thinking of others first, being respectful of parents, elders, and swamis, following divine law, especially ahimsa, which is mental, emotional, and physical non-injury to all beings. Our Guru, Sarvaya Subramanya Swami, taught that the worship of Lord Ganesha puts one naturally on the path of virtuous living. Ganesha sits on the psychic lotus of the Muladhara chakra, the ganglia of nerves at the base of the spine within everyone. This chakra governs time, matter, and memory. As the spiritual aspirant is lifted up from fear and confusion into conscious awareness of right thought, right speech, and right action, the Muladhara chakra becomes activated. But the seeker loses one thing. He loses his free instinctive willfulness. It is lost forever. Yet it is not a great loss. Man's own personal willfulness, his animalistic free will, is a feeble and insignificant force when compared to Lord Ganesha's divine will. When beholden to God Ganesha and inwardly awakened enough to be attuned to his will, it is then quite natural that the instinctive will bows down. Personal likes and dislikes vanish. Limited faculties of reason and analysis are overpowered and subdued by a greater will, a cosmic will, the will of Dharma. The second aspect of Dharma is entitled Two Paths, Two Dharmas. Recently, I gave a presentation at a weekend retreat of the Hindu Students Association. One of many written questions submitted to me in advance showed a common misunderstanding. It said, "We talk about detachment from Maya, but for most of us, our career and living is centered around worldly subjects and concerns. How can we reconcile this fact with our larger desire to separate from the material world?" In their pursuit of Dharma, these youth were struggling with the Upanishadic concept of self-abnegation, thinking that it applies to all Hindus, thinking they should be more detached from worldliness. I pointed out that it is vital to understand that in Hinduism there are two distinct paths, that of the householder, called Grahastha Dharma, and that of the renunciate, Sannyasa Dharma. Self-abnegation and detachment from Maya belong to the renunciate path, not the householder path. This distinction of two paths is our second aspect of Dharma. To quickly cognize the differences between the two, take a look at the ancient ethical masterpiece Tirukkural by Tiruvalluvar. In Part 1, entitled Virtue or Dharma, Autumn, Section 2 is the way of the householder, and Section 3 is the way of the renunciate. Scanning the chapter titles immediately reveals the deep distinctions. Chapters in the householder section include wife, children, love, hospitality, and gratitude. Possession of self-control and avoidance of covetousness. The final three chapters focus on giving to others so generously as to achieve renown in the community. Chapters in the renunciate life section include austerity, the impermanence of all things, renunciation, knowledge of truth, and eradication of desire. Without even reading the actual verses, it is clear that detaching from the materialistic world is a goal for those on the renunciate path, but not those on the householder path. For Hindu monks, the Tirukkural stresses renunciation of wealth. For the householder, becoming wealthy is encouraged with the goal of generously sharing one's abundance with others. A contemporary example of the latter is a person Hindu youth and young adults readily relate to, Mark Zuckerberg, co-founder and CEO of Facebook. Mark celebrated the birth of his daughter in December 2015 by pledging to give away 99% of his Facebook shares. Money from the shares, currently valued at $45 billion, will go to projects and charities that advance human potential and promote equality. Our third aspect of Dharma is entitled, Which Stage of Life? The Sanskrit term for stage of life is ashrama dharma. Ashrama Dharma is a natural expression and maturing of the body, mind, and emotions through 4 progressive stages. This idea was developed millennia ago and detailed in scriptures known as Dharma Shastras to highlight the fact that our Dharma, our duty, changes and evolves as we mature from youth to adulthood, senior years, and old age. My guru considered that in modern times, each ashrama is a 24-year period applying equally to men and women as follows. Brahmacharya student, birth to age 24, learning, pursuing secular and religious studies. Grahastha, householder, age 24 to 48, raising a family, fulfilling a career or profession, serving the community. Vanaprastha, elder advisor, age 48 to 72, offering one's experiences to help others. Sannyasa, retiree, age 72 onward, withdrawing from society and devoting more time to religious practices. Our 4th key to Dharma is to understand it as one of the 4 goals of life. The Sanskrit term is Purushartha, which literally means human wealth. These are 4 pursuits in which humans may legitimately engage. Also called Chaturvarga, fourfold good, they form a cornerstone of Hindu ethics. Dharma, or duty and piety. Artha, or wealth. Kama, love and enjoyment. And moksha, enlightenment and liberation. It is vital to note that while Dharma is a goal in its own right, it is also the guiding principle of the other 3 goals, as it defines the proper way to pursue wealth, pleasure, and moksha. Do we acquire wealth in a virtuous and honest way? Are spouses faithful to one another? Dharma, virtue and piety, is the steady guide for artha and kama, and ultimately leading the soul to moksha. A 5th aspect of Dharma relates to one's profession. In Sanskrit, it is called Varna Dharma. As we read in Gurudeva's Dancing with Shiva, Varna Dharma defines the individual's obligations and responsibilities within the nation, society, community, class, occupational subgroup, and family. In some professions, the principles or dharma that guide it are defined in formal declarations. For example, Western medical doctors take the Hippocratic Oath, which includes this promise: I will apply for the benefit of the sick all measures which are required, avoiding those twin traps of overtreatment and therapeutic nihilism. Lawyers take an oath, one version of which states, I will employ for the purpose of maintaining the causes confided to me such means only as are consistent with truth and honor. Other professions, such as certified public accountants, have a written code that members are expected to follow. The hundreds of occupations without formal oaths or codes have traditional expectations which constitute an informal understanding of their dharmic ideas. The idea is that when individuals fulfill their respective Varna Dharma, the whole of society functions smoothly. Pondering this 5th dimension of Dharma keeps us reminded of the ethics, goals, and guidelines of our occupation. By meditating on and understanding these 5 aspects of Dharma, youth and adults can unfold a much better sense of Dharma's place in their life and thus strive in an informed way to fulfill the first verse of Ātī-Chūdī, desire to fulfill Dharma. This concludes our first section on the first level of practice, which is only focusing on Dharma. The second section is entitled Three Forms of Worship and an additional topic of samskaras. A core practice that I recommend focusing on first is daily worship in the home shrine, preferably before dawn. Every Hindu home should have a place of worship. It may be as simple as a shelf with pictures of God, or it can be an entire room dedicated to worship and meditation. Many families have a spiritual guide or guru and display his or her picture in the shrine. If you are living away from home, such as at a university, a single photo may have to do. In this sacred space, we light a lamp, ring a bell, and pray daily. The most devout hold a formal worship ritual, or Atmarta Puja. This regular daily worship is called Upasana. Residents go to the shrine for blessings before leaving for work or school. At other times, one may sit in the shrine to pray, chant the names of God, sing devotional songs, read from scripture, or meditate. The home shrine is also an excellent place to recenter oneself through prayer and reflection when emotionally upset. A second expression of Hindu worship is Utsava, holy days. Observing the same day each week is a holy day and celebrating the major festival days through the year. On their weekly holy day, the family clean and decorate the home altar, attend the nearby temple, and observe a fast. To make such visits practical, we live near a temple. The temple is a sacred building, revered as the home of God. This is because of its mystical architecture, consecration, and the continuous daily worship or puja performed thereafter. Puja is performed by qualified priests invoking the deity by chanting Sanskrit verses from scripture and making successive offerings, which conclude with arati, the waving of an oil lamp in front of the deity while bells are rung loudly. The deity image or murti is especially sacred. It is through the murti that the presence and power of the deity is felt by devotees who attend the puja for blessings and grace. The third expression of Hindu worship is pilgrimage or tirtha-yatra. At least once each year, a journey is made for darshan of holy persons, temples, and places, ideally away from one's local area. During this sojourn, God, gods, and gurus become the singular focus of life. All worldly matters are set aside. Thus, pilgrimage provides a complete break from one's usual day-to-day concerns. Special prayers are kept in mind, and penance or some form of sacrifice is part of the process. Actually, the preparation is as important as the pilgrimage itself. In the days or weeks before a tirtha-yatra, devotees perform spiritual disciplines such as decreasing the intake of heavier foods while increasing lighter foods, fasting 1 day a week, doing japa, reading from scripture each night before sleep, and on weekends doubling the time usually spent in religious practices. These three forms of worship, daily puja, holy days, and pilgrimage, help us to manifest our inner perfection in our outer nature. Our next practice is the observance of traditional rites of passage, called samskaras. At these crucial ceremonies, an individual receives the blessings of God, God's guru, family, and community, as he or she commences a new phase of life. The first major samskara is namakarana, the name-giving rite, which also marks formal entry into a particular sect of Hinduism. It is performed 11 to 41 days after birth. At this time, guardian devas are assigned to see the child through life. Annaprasana, the first feeding of solid food, is held at about 6 months. Vidyarambha marks the beginning of formal education, when a boy or girl ceremoniously writes the first letter of the alphabet in a tray of uncooked rice. Vivaha is the rite of marriage, an elaborate and joyous ceremony in which the homa fire is central. Antyeshti, the funeral rite guiding a soul in its transition to inner worlds, includes preparation of the body, cremation, bone gathering, dispersal of ashes, and home purification. When we take the 3 forms of worship, plus samskaras, and add in our first practice of dharma, what we have are 5 practices that are referred to as the Pancha Nitya Karmas, 5 eternal practices by Sadhguru Sivaya Subramanya Swami, who notes, we could say that they are an amalgam of all the counsel of the Vedas and Agamas to guide daily and yearly religious life. These 5 obligatory religious practices are simple and applicable for all. Study them and put them into practice in your own life. Upasana, worship. Utsava, holy days. Tirthayatra, pilgrimage. Dharma, virtuous living. Samskaras, sacraments. These 5 duties, faithfully performed, are powerful tools to help us grow and evolve into our divine potential. This concludes our section of the second level of practice, which is the 5 permanent practices, Pancha Nitya Karmas. The third section draws on my publisher's desk a 10-minute spiritual workout. An important aspect of traditional Hinduism is that during the teenage years, youth take on a daily practice, such as seen in this slide, which is of Sandhya Vandana, worshipping at dawn and dusk. Oftentimes, the Upanayana Samskara would be given, and the daily repetition of the Gayatri Mantra taken on. The predominant trend in India and other countries, however, is that fewer and fewer families follow such disciplines. Sitting with me, so many say the same thing. We just can't seem to find the time for personal daily worship, japa, or meditation. Time devoted to employment, transportation, eating, entertainment, physical exercise, and spending time with family and friends takes up the whole day. The traditional 1-hour daily religious workout is proving to be too long, and because the benefits are not well understood, it is commonly skipped altogether. So what's the solution? I focus primarily on the youth where their patterns are not too rigid to change. I devised a 10-minute program consisting of 4 activities that can be performed whenever time is available. Hopefully the brevity and flexibility of the time of day, along with a clear sense of the spiritual benefits, will motivate students to adopt this workout or, equally as good, customize a routine of their own. I suggest this practice be taken up around age 15 and maintained throughout high school and university. After schooling, it is hoped that those serious about their spiritual life will increase their workout to half an hour. The spiritual workout consists of 4 activities: worship, introspection, affirmation, and study. The worship portion involves repeating a mantra to a chosen deity or reciting 9 or more names of the deity, offering grains of rice to a murti or picture with each repetition or name. For example, if worshipping Lord Ganesha, one might intone the mantra Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, or another of your choice or lineage. Alternatively, a short bhajan can be sung while looking at the deity's picture or murti. Devote 2 minutes to this simple expression of reverence and gratitude. The introspection portion consists of chanting the mantra Om 9 times with eyes closed. For Om Japa to be effective, the mantra must be pronounced correctly. The first syllable is A, pronounced as the English word ah, but prolonged, ah. The second syllable is U, as in roof, but pronounced oo, but prolonged, oo. The third syllable is M, pronounced with the front teeth gently touching and the sound prolonged, Each repetition is sounded for about 7 seconds, with 2 seconds on ah, 2 seconds on oo, and 3 seconds on with a silence of about 2 seconds before the next repetition. The 3 syllables are run together. Om. On the first syllable, ah, we feel the solar plexus and chest vibrating. On the second syllable, oo, the throat vibrates. The third syllable, vibrates the top of the head. Devote 2 minutes to this. Affirmations are statements repeated to oneself to place specific impressions in our subconscious mind to produce positive results in the future. This portion of the workout consists of repeating 9 times the affirmation, I'm all right now. 2 other affirmations that can be used are, all my needs will always be met, and I can, I will, I am able to accomplish what I plan. The threefold key to effectively utilizing affirmations is 1. Keep the mind focused on the meaning of what you are saying. 2. Hold in your mind a visualization that shows the result you want to achieve. And 3. Feel in the present how you will feel later when you have achieved what the affirmation describes. Devote 1 minute to this. The study portion consists of reading a sacred Hindu text that provides you new knowledge and insight. It is important to choose a work that you find clear and inspiring, avoiding those that seem obscure or technical. Devote 5 minutes to this. What are the benefits of these 4 religious practices? The benefit of the worship portion is that it increases our devotion to the deity, enhancing our relationship with him or her. It is a natural first step toward eventually performing a full rite of worship, Atmarta Puja. The introspective practice of chanting Om produces a calming effect on the mind and raises our energies into the more spiritual part of the mind, moving you into the higher chakras. Provides a natural first step toward the deeper practices of meditation, such as regulating our breath and withdrawing energy from the senses, focusing the thought process, leading to experiencing our inner soul nature. Repeating an affirmation each day helps us become more positive and self-confident, making us more successful in everything we do. Affirmations are also a great antidote to worry. The study of sacred texts increases knowledge of our faith and catalyzes insights into Hindu philosophy and practices. It is important to keep in mind that the amount of spiritual advancement we make toward our ultimate goal of experiencing God, self-realization, and the subsequent liberation from the cycle of rebirth or moksha is directly related to the amount of time we devote to religious practices. Sage Patanjali mentions this in his Yoga Sutras, chapter 1, verses 21 and 22. For those who have strong dedication, samadhi is near. Whether one's practice is mild, medium, or intense also makes a difference. Patanjali is indicating that spiritual progress is not just based on how much time we devote to our religious practices, but also on how much dedication, energy, or effort we put into it. His third verse on this topic, chapter 1, verse 23, states, Samadhi may also come through devotion to Ishvara. This means that effort and dedication can be supplemented by the blessings or grace we receive due to our intense devotion to God. In conclusion, these four practices of worship, introspection, affirmation, and study provide a simple, balanced approach to a consistent daily practice. We hope you give it a try. This concludes our section on the third level of practice, which is the Panchanicha Karmas plus a 10-minute daily spiritual workout. The fourth section describes the concept of sadhana and the performance of a daily vigil, as explained by Gurudeva in the Master Course Trilogy. Our Himalayan Academy lexicon defines sadhana as effective means of attainment, self-effort, spiritual discipline, the way. Religious or spiritual disciplines such as puja, yoga, meditation, japa, fasting, and austerity. The idea of achieving an attainment is an important aspect of the concept of sadhana. In other words, it is not referring to an occasional spiritual practice, but rather one that is done regularly. Therefore, sadhana can also be described as a steady and persevering practice of a method or exercise prescribed for spiritual ends. The term sadhana marga, coined by Yogaswami, conveys the nature of the seriousness of the practice of sadhana. The lexicon defines sadhana marga as a path of intense effort, spiritual discipline, and consistent inner transformation, as opposed to theoretical and intellectual learning. The effect of sadhana is the building of willpower and the building of faith and confidence in oneself and in God, gods, and Guru. Sadhana harnesses and transmutes the instinctive intellectual nature, allowing progressive spiritual unfoldment into the superconscious realizations and innate abilities of the soul. Gurudeva explains how the daily vigil relates to sadhana. To give sadhana a place in your life, you must establish a daily vigil. The ideal time is early in the morning, just after bathing, before you start to think about the activities of the day and your various responsibilities and plans. A vigil held at the same time every day is an excellent way to budget the necessary time for sadhana in our busy modern times. Here is the traditional pattern. Each day, hundreds of millions of Hindus awaken for the last fifth of the night, bathe, don fresh clothing, apply sectarian marks called tilaka, and sit in a clean, quiet place for religious disciplines. Facing east or north, the devotional puja rites of bhakti yoga are performed. Hatha yoga, hymn singing, japa, and chanting are often included. Then follows scriptural study and meditation, listening to the sound current and contemplating the moon-like inner light. The duly initiated practice advanced yogas, but only as directed by their guru. Through the day, karma yoga, selfless religious service, is performed at every opportunity. Besides these yogas of doing, Hindus practice the central yoga of being, living a joyful, positive, harmonious life. Gurudeva describes the concept of a sadhana vrata in chapter 13 on merging with Shiva. Yes, sadhana begins in the home and it begins with you. It must be practiced regularly at the same time each day, not 2 hours one day, 1 hour the next, and then forgetting about it for 3 or 4 days because you are too busy with external affairs, but every day at the same time. Beating disappointment with yourself is in itself a sadhana. In the technological age, nearly everyone finds it difficult to set aside 1 hour in which to perform sadhana. That is why in your sadhana vrata or vow, you promise to dedicate only 1/2 hour a day. In the agricultural era, it was easy to find time to perform sadhana 2 to 3 hours a day. Why? The demands of external life were not as great as they are now in the technological age. 1/2 hour a day, therefore, is the amount of time we dedicate for our sadhana. We found in the 1982 Book 2 of the Master Course the text Gurudeva wrote for taking a sadhana vrata, made a few updates, and incorporated it into the new supervised Master Course study. This is how it reads. I invoke Lord Ganesha's blessings to proceed with this sacred vrata. In the presence of God Shiva and all his gods and devas, I vow to set aside 1/2 hour at the same time, Monday through Friday, for regular, conscientious personal worship and sadhana. Should this appointment be missed, an additional 1/2 hour shall be observed within a 24-hour period as a penance. During the vigil, I vow to perform Ganesha Puja, Om chanting, and assigned readings. May Lord Shiva bless me and give me the strength to proceed on the path of sadhana toward his holy feet. We are stressing the daily vigil more in our revised Master Course supervised study for new students than we did in the previous version of the supervised study. It is a 61-week course. After 12 weeks, a 1/2 hour a day vigil is started, and after 26 weeks, it is increased to an hour. This concludes our section of the 4th level of practice, which is the Pancha Nicha Karmas plus a 1/2 hour daily vigil. For those who are formal shishya, the vrata taken is for a full 1 hour vigil as described in the Nadinada Sutras, verses 21 and 22. Worshippers of Shiva perform a 1 hour daily vigil, ideally before sunrise, in a clean, quiet place after bathing and donning fresh clothing and holy ash. This vigil is optional on weekends and when traveling or ill. Worshippers of Shiva during their daily sadhana vigil conduct or attend puja, chant the Guru mantra and 108 repetitions of their mantra, study scripture, and perform hatha yoga, concentration, and meditation. This concludes our short section on the fifth level of practice, which is the lengthening of the half an hour daily vigil to an hour. Next, we can look at performing a vigil during the sannyasa ashrama. First, let's review a few slides from the keynote movie on the 4 stages of life. My Guru Savaya Subramanya Swami considered that in modern times, each ashrama is a 24-year period applying equally to men and women, brahmacharya being the first 24 years of life, grahastha extending from age 24 to 48, vanaprastha from age 48 to 72, and sannyasa from age 72 onward. The parameters of the sannyasa ashrama have widened. Sannyasi or sannyasins are wanderers. Small percentage of modern Hindus follow the model of taking up sannyasa after retirement, renouncing the world and wandering among the thousands of itinerant sadhus of India, many of whom took up the mendicant path in their 20s and 30s. This pattern of elders taking up sannyasa is okay for single people, widows and widowers, and it still works in parts of India where society honors and cares for such holy men and women. But in most areas of the world, it is neither accepted nor understood. A number of Hindus turning age 72 have asked me what they should do differently in the years ahead. The recommendation I give, of course, assumes they are no longer working. My advice is to simply intensify whatever religious practices they are already observing. If you perform a daily puja for 30 minutes, increase it to an hour. If you meditate daily for half an hour, increase it to an hour. If you go on pilgrimage for 2 weeks once a year, increase it to a month. Once these changes have become a firm habit, one would naturally be inclined to devote even more time to religious practices. After age 72, as the physical forces wane, is the time to turn within and withdraw from worldly involvement. My Guru gave this helpful description of the third and fourth ashramas for modern times. It is during the latter stages of life that family devotees have the opportunity to intensify their sadhana and give back to society of their experience, their knowledge and their wisdom gained through the first 2 ashramas. The Vanaprastha ashrama, age 48 to 72, is a very important stage of life because that is the time when you can inspire excellence in the brahmacharya students and in the families to see that their life goes along as it should. Later, the sannyasa ashrama, beginning at 72, is the time to enjoy and deepen whatever realizations you have had along the way. Following the principle given for the sannyasa ashrama of doubling the amount of time we have been putting into our sadhana, we could automatically initially increase the vigil from 1 to 2 hours. This concludes our section of the 6th level of practice, which is lengthening the hour daily vigil to 2 hours, and is the last slide of the presentation. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.